Hi, I'm Dan Wilton, the CEO of First Mining Gold, and thank you very much for joining us for this brief presentation and overview of our company. I'm going to be making a few forward-looking statements as we go through this presentation, so just have a quick look at the statements there. First Mining Gold has one of the largest gold resource bases in Canada. We're sitting today with 7.4 million ounces of gold in the measured and indicated categories, and 3.8 million ounces in the inferred categories in really 6 projects across Canada. Our 2 main focus assets that we're moving forward this year are SPRINGPOLE project, which is one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in Canada, a large open pit project located in northwestern Ontario, and the GOLDLUND project, which is one of the higher grade open pit potential projects in Canada, where we're having some great exploration success and continuing to grow that deposit. The balance of the portfolio, it's 4 other projects, a couple of them in northwestern Ontario, a collection of projects in Quebec, and our Hope Brook project in Newfoundland, all of which are past producing gold assets or well understood, taken to feasibility assets with defined resources located in areas of great infrastructure. So that really provides a lot of significant upside and optionality in the gold price environment that we're coming into right now. All our assets are located in Canada in great jurisdictions, and for the project, particularly SPRINGPOLE, we're taking through a permitting process. It is, we think, one of the best one of the best jurisdictions to permit a project in Canada. In the world, for that matter. And we're trading at a significant discount to our peers. We'll talk a little bit about the valuation and why we think this is such a compelling investment opportunity. And we've put together a team that we believe has the capabilities to take these projects forward. So a little bit about the company. Our enterprise value, as we have up here, market cap today is about 120 million, with a little bit more than $10 million Canadian of cash on hand. We just closed a financing in early March, which we're very thankful to have done, that gives us a lot of the capital we need to get SPRINGPOLE through this pre-feasibility study and through the permitting process. Very good daily trading liquidity. We trade on average about 1.5 million shares a day in Toronto, and about half that again OTC in the US. And our shareholder base is largely retail, 88% retail investors, and a lot of great long-standing supportive shareholders, many of whom showed up to support us in our latest financing. Management directors own about 3.1%. First Majestic has a small strategic stake and about 7% institutional shareholding that we're actively looking to grow. And we're currently covered by 4 analysts, 2 in Canada and 2 in the US, with price targets that range from about 70 cents up to about $1.50, average around $1. So the investment rationale, and it's interesting, I think, to understand where First Mining came from in order to understand how we're moving it forward. So this was a portfolio of projects that was put together by Keith Neumeyer and a few like-minded individuals in 2015, 2016, which was a really dire point in the capital markets for gold development, particularly. They were looking at a number of projects around the world that they thought they could acquire for less than $10 an ounce. And so they formed a public company and started buying projects. They bought 8 companies or projects in 12 months and really assembled this portfolio that we have today. And at the time when that was done, the market cap of First Mining, in the back of a lot of the excitement as the portfolio was put together, market cap went over $600 million. Our share price got as high as $1.20 Canadian. As you can see on the price chart here, it's been a period of decline since then. And part of this is just advancing these projects, moving them forward. But what's important to note is, the gold price has now moved into an environment that we think is very supportive of moving these projects forward. And there's been an enormous amount of technical work done on these projects to move them forward as we've advanced them. So I think making really good progress on this, and you basically can buy this portfolio today at a fraction of the value that it was worth when it was first put together. Trading today at about $7 US an ounce versus your average North American developer at $27 an ounce. So as we like to say, it's about a 4 times return to the mean. From my background in mining, private equity investing, and corporate finance, can tell you in the last cycle, when we were in an environment like this, development companies ended up trading at 50 to 70, 50 to $100 an ounce, and ultimately getting acquired by strategic partners or potential acquirers in excess of $100 an ounce. So we think not only does the developer universe have this leverage to move forward, which I think is going to be very interesting for our shareholders, but we also have about a 4x return just to get to this discounted average developers are trading at right now. So we think there's a lot of value here, as is echoed by the fact when you look at our market value versus the fundamental value that we have in the company today. And I tell you that we think Springpole is sitting today with an 841 million US NPV. That's at $1,300 gold from our PEA that we put out in October of last year. And if you just give that developer average to the balance of the projects in the portfolio, you can see that gives you in excess of $1.4 billion Canadian of asset value in this company. It's trading today at about 120 million market cap. So we think there's an enormous amount of leverage and upside to the environment that we are coming into in the gold sector. The founder and management team here, Keith Neumeyer, who's our chair, needs no introduction to most people in the mining sector, a great entrepreneur and founder and CEO of First Majestic Silver, 2 billion market cap silver producer. As I said, my background, I've been here for a little bit more than a year now, joined at the beginning of 2019, but my background really is private equity investing and mining corporate finance. The balance of the team had some great team members when I joined a year ago, and we've made a couple of key additions really to round out the technical team and add some horsepower on corporate development and investor relations most recently. So we're very excited with the team that we have here moving the projects forward. Our core asset portfolio is located in a great area of northwestern Ontario. So just to give a sense of the geography of our projects, Springpole is located about 100 kilometers east of Red Lake. Red Lake is a great mining camp, more than 30 million ounces produced out of Red Lake since the 1930s, and all kinds of infrastructure around here. The area around Springpole is essentially all commercial forest and obviously a great history of mining in the area with Red Lake and with the Pickle Lake camp, which they've been mining in the 30s since the 30s as well. As you can see, GOLDLUND is located actually just off the Trans-Canada Highway. And paved highway kind of goes through our property, or on the edge of our property, between Dryden and Sioux Lookout. So you really can't ask for better infrastructure or a more supportive environment to be developing a project. So we'll talk a little bit more about Springpole. Why we're so excited about this project is that it is one of the largest undeveloped open pit gold projects in Canada, sitting almost 4.7 million ounces at a little bit greater than a gram of indicated resource, and significant silver resource as well, which we'll show you in a minute. And that is scoped out in our most recent PEA into an average annual gold production of in excess of 400,000 ounces a year. This makes really Springpole one of the deposits that is big enough for literally every gold producer in the world to care about. The PEA that we put out really demonstrated robust economics. It was scoped with a little bit more than 800 million US capital expenditure, but delivered at $1,300 gold, an NPV of 841 million and an IRR of 22%, which, I think those numbers will show a little bit about how those move up as we start using gold prices that are a little more reflective of the current environment that we're in, and gives a lot of leverage to an increasing gold price environment. This is, as I said before, a great area to develop and permit mines, good supportive relationships with a number of our Indigenous communities in the area, and we're in active consultation with our Indigenous communities right now. Have been in the environmental assessment process since 2018, and our focus this year is taking Springpole through the pre-feasibility process in partnership with AUTECO, the global engineering firm, who has put a great team on moving the project through PFS. And our goal is also to submit the environmental impact statement on Springpole in 2021, as soon as we can get it completed. And that will put us into a formal part of the permitting process. Said before, lots of infrastructure in place here. We are, while the project looks a bit remote, we're within 40 kilometers of a Class 1 forest road and a power line. So really everything that you would need in order to develop the project. So a great place to be moving this project forward. This just gives a bit of a sense of the development plan for Springpole. It involves, the deposit sits under the bay of a lake. And you can see in the bottom corner there, it highlights, it represents about 6% of Springpole Lake by area, about 3% by volume, because it's quite a shallow bay. But if the project has one perception issue against it, this is it. When it was discovered, people perceived this as a real challenge of being able to get permits. And I think what's different between when a lot of people last looked at this project in 2011, 2012, and today is that, we've done 8 years of environmental baseline work, really detailed, thorough, exhaustive work on both the aquatic habitat, the terrestrial habitat, fish species. We have a 370-page environmental baseline. At its conclusion states there's no species at risk and there's no unique fish habitat here that can't be compensated for elsewhere in the watershed. So the development plan in terms of building cofferdams, these dams are less than a kilometer long and average about 5 meters high. So really not that significant in the context of construction of a mine of this size. And they've been engineered to a pre-feasibility level, and we've done geotechnical drilling under the footings of them. So a lot of the technical risk has been taken out of this aspect of the development plan. And we're very confident in moving it forward that we can design a project that we can build and operate without significant adverse effects to the environment. And that's our whole process over the next year in submitting the EIS, is doing really solid data science to advance that and make that understanding come to fruition. So I'll talk a little bit now just about the development plan as we move forward. You can see in the slide that we have here in the 3D representation, just kind of shows the plan as it was formulated in our PEA in October, which is a slight change from the previous versions. But in the end, it's going to be really quite a tight and compact footprint for the development of a mine of this size, which we think really helps in the permittability. And one of the things that really does make Springpole unique is the ore body itself. So you can see here the resource, 139 million tons at a little bit greater than a gram gold, and 5.5 grams silver. The silver recovers in the flow sheet, which is important, contributes about 10% of the revenue of the project. But this is really, it's the nature of the ore body that makes it really quite unique. It is one large, continuously mineralized intrusive. And I think this gives a bit of a sense of it here when you look at the deposit. And it's interesting, I think, to note the blue blocks in this deposit model show the blocks greater than a 0.4 gram cutoff, and the red shows all of the blocks greater than a gram cutoff. And this is just to say that inside the pit shell, which you can see here, you do have a number of areas of higher grade. So what that means for us really is, and some of that high grade comes right up to surface. We think that there is, as we go through pre-feasibility and developing our PFS mine plan, we think there is some opportunity to move higher grade through the plant in earlier years. But again, what's unique about this is not mining a series of narrow veins to move this project forward. You're basically mining a big blob of mineralization that's 100 to 250 meters wide and 2 kilometers long and about 500 meters deep. And when you're in it, you're kind of taking the whole thing. So that plus the nature of the mineralization plus the compact footprint means really quite low cost operation. And that's what really came through as we looked at the PEA summary when we were formulating the PEA last year. The all-in sustaining cost on an equivalent basis in the low 600s, cash costs of operation for a mine of this size and scale, sub $600 an ounce on an equivalent basis. And that's partly driven by the strip ratio. It's a sub 2 to 1, or it's a 2.1 to 1 strip ratio that we scoped in the PEA. We think we can do better than that in the PFS. But this all just speaks to a project of meaningful size, with a production profile that, as you will see, will fit in with the largest gold producers in the world, and the robustness of this deposit as you move north of the $1,300 an ounce price that we used in scoping it. You can see the leverage to the gold price here at a $1,500 gold price, after-tax NPV of in excess of 1.2 billion US. So we think that's a really robust project that will be able to attract the capital to get it built because it's unique, and we think it's a real strategic asset. So this just gives a bit of a sense of the production profile. But again, many of the years in excess of 400,000 ounces a year. This can be really, really important to large gold producers who are looking at their own pipelines in the back half of this decade and realizing that they haven't spent the money on developing projects. They have not spent the money on exploration. And they don't have pipelines to continue to build resources and reserves and productive capacity. So we think we're aiming to have this project ready to go in the time frame when the industry really, really needs it. And this just gives a bit of a sense. Springpole, where it producing today, would be the third largest gold mine in Canada, and up ranked with a number of very, very significant projects. So on our permitting timeframe, we've been in the environmental assessment process since 2018 when we submitted our project description. We're right now have terms of reference in with the ministry, and those are being reviewed. We hope to have our terms of reference for the environmental impact statement, which is basically the table of contents for what you're going to study in the EIS. Hope to have those approved by in the second quarter this year. And then with the balance of this year spend collecting all the remaining baseline data and design data for the EIS, and aim to get that submitted early next year. And then in Ontario, it's a great place to permit projects. There's a real certainty to the timeframes. They permitted 4 big open pit mines of similar or larger size and scale than Springpole. All of them around a lot of water. They've permitted 4 mines in the last 4 years, and that's Magino, Côté, Hard Rock, and Hammond Reef. All great projects that should move forward on their own merits. But I think, the fact that they all went through the same process, we're breaking a lot less trail than we otherwise might have to. And that combined with completing the pre-feasibility study this year, launching into feasibility, kind of capital dependent, as the project goes through the EIS process to get its federal and provincial EA approvals, would leave us in the position of a construction decision in kind of a 2023 timeframe. So again, I think this is a project that we're moving through at the right time that's going to give us a really good sense of having the project ready when the industry needs it. So that's Springpole, large deposit, lots of milestones forthcoming here over the course of the next year. And, we think it's going to continue to demonstrate itself as a real strategic project. We'll talk a little bit now about our GOLDLUND project, which we have a very robust resource that we updated last year with strong expansion potential. And it really is the development or the expansion potential and exploration potential on this property that we're very excited about. A great pro-mining jurisdiction. In fact, our neighbors to the southwest at the Goliath project received their federal environmental approvals to build a mine and mill 25 kilometers away from our GOLDLUND pit in August of last year. So this is an area that really demonstrates the area and community is very pro-mining, lots of great community support, great resource development community around Dryden Sioux Lookout. And you cannot ask for a better place to build a mine in Canada, quite honestly. It's got every bit of infrastructure you could ever want running, through or alongside the project at GOLDLUND. The deposit itself, it's not, it's more of a classic Canadian hard rock Archean gold system. It's these series of really tens of kilometer long, structurally continuous granodiorite units that where they've been mineralized have been mineralized with a quartz anchorite stockwork veining. And at the Goldlund main zone, our resource here, really, it's pit constrained down to about 200 meters. There's quite a bit of resource sitting underneath those pits right now. And indicated resource, almost 13 million tons at almost 2 grams. Indicated resource or inferred resource at about 18 million tons at 1.5 grams. And a lot of those sitting in these parallel structures, which is the focus of our exploration program, certainly this year as we're moving forward. So again, we continue to think that Goldlund, the exciting part of it is that it's part of a big emerging district. And we've last year stepped out 10 kilometers to the northeast to test a prospect surface showing at an area called Miller. And they drilled the first holes there. We'll show you them in a second. The Miller holes, really, 8 of them hit the structure. 7 of them were quite heavily mineralized, lots of visible gold. And so we went back in and drilled about another 7,000 meters there in 2019, and I think have a really good understanding of demonstrated, without question in our minds, that Miller really is, or this Goldlund property is going to host a number of deposits on it. So Miller's not included in the resource right now. It's something that as we continue this drill program, we'll look to update that resource once we have a bit more data. This is magnetic data that shows sort of overlaying the deposit itself. There you can see the Goldlund main zone. But the magnetic data really shows the continuity of these granodiorite structures. And where we've had the very interesting results really comes up to where these granodiorite units have kind of been intruded in and I think allowed the fluids to kind of form. So the big intrusives here, you can see the intrusive on around the Goldlund main zone. Miller, we believe, has to do with this intrusive up here to the northeast. But you can just see highlight on here, including in between these two intrusives. There are lots of areas that we would like to get out and test this regional structure. And I think Miller's confirmed to us that we're going to have a number of deposits on this project. And I think it's an area that even if you start construction of a small mine, it's a place where you're going to continue to find gold for years and years and years. You can see here in the Goldlund main zone, this shows where some of the drilling we have done late last year, beginning of this year, it really is testing these parallel zones in the Goldlund main zone. And that's important because those kind of add real bulk and scale to the main Goldlund main zone deposit. And each of these structures still remains open at depth. They're all open along strike, both to the northeast and the southwest. So we've just curtailed our drill program there a couple of weeks ago, which I'll talk about just toward the end in terms of what kind of COVID-19 impact we've had on the company, which is minimal to this point. But those Goldlund main zones, and you can see here in the chart where zone 2, zone 3, particularly zone 4 has some of the better grade and an area that we're quite excited to be continuing to drill on and continuing to expand. So we'll continue to have drill results coming out at Goldlund over the course of the next few weeks and in fact the next couple of months, and aim to get back out drilling there in June or July. And this just gives a bit of a sense of what some of the drill results we've had at this project are over the last year. Not particularly rewarded, as you've seen in our share price, but 200 meters of 1.6 grams from surface, 140 meters of 1.9, 40 meters of 4 grams in an open pit target. These are some really exceptional results that we're looking forward to following up with. With that, there's also the broader portfolio. And in the end, we never have enough time to talk about these projects, but each of these are projects with significant, well understood, established resources in great jurisdictions. And I think our goal with these projects is over the course of the next year to really move them forward to try and surface some value from them. And the first example of that is our PICKLE project, which is one of Canada's highest grade producing mines ever, produced for 30 years at an average grade of 16 grams. So Pickle Crow, what we thought it really needed was some significant exploration and kind of a fresh look at it. So we got approached by a group called AUTECO Minerals out of Australia, who had a great track record for surfacing value in a high-grade gold camp in a company called Bellevue Gold. And they were looking for their next project where they'd taken Bellevue from historic gold camp to almost 2 million ounce resource above 10 grams within kind of 18 months. So great exploration track record. And we have the same team now that's come to Pickle Crow, and they're planning on mobilizing programs and starting drilling in Pickle Crow in May if they can. So they are committing to spend $10 million over 5 years to advance the project, and then with a series of cash and share payments to us, we'll end up owning 20% of the project and carry through to a construction decision. So we're very excited about the team moving that forward. But each of these other projects in their own rights, as we've shown on the plan before, each of these other projects, if they were valued as development projects today, could constitute half of our market cap. So lots that we can do without spending a lot of money to advance these projects, and ultimately, I think, find some other partners to help move them forward and retain some significant interest in them. So the catalyst moving forward at SPRINGPOLE, moving forward with a pre-feasibility study and advancing our permitting and targeting our submission of the EIS in 2021. At GOLDLUND, as I say, we'll have drill results coming, and we'll get back with those drill results in hand. We'll take the next couple of months to plan out the summer and fall drilling program, but we're well funded to continue drilling at GOLDLUND this year and planning another about 10,000 meters, and then moving the other portfolio assets forward. So, as I said before, one of the issues that we get asked a lot these days is around the impact of COVID-19 on our operations. We took a proactive approach to demobilize our camps a couple of weeks ago. It was really only, in the case of SPRINGPOLE, really only a couple of weeks early, because we would normally go down to a care and maintenance staffing at the camps as we go through spring breakup and the ice road comes out of the camp. So we took a proactive measure to ensure the health of our contractors and employees and our communities that we're operating in to just demobilize. But I think, we're still allowed to work on the projects. Mining and mineral exploration and development has been deemed an essential industry in Ontario. So when we are ready to remobilize, we're capable of doing so and have good, strong protocols in place to make sure that we can do so safely. If there's going to be one real impact from this that we're still trying to assess, it really is what's the impact on timing of our consultation with our Indigenous communities. And they are rightly, right now, very concerned about the health and safety of their communities, which is absolutely paramount. And a lot of those communities have now travel bans or lockdowns on. And so we're working with the communities to try and figure out how we can advance some of our consultation using technological means, but to the extent that some of those timeframes might slip on the environmental side and on the consultation side, I think would be understandable. And certainly, as we said before, the health and safety of those communities is absolutely paramount to us. So with that, First Mining Gold, listen, I think we have demonstrated here an outstanding portfolio of assets, and we're very excited about SPRINGPOLE, which we think is a really key strategic asset with a lot of catalysts and milestones ahead of it in the next year. GOLDLUND continuing good drill results and exploration, trading at a significant discount to our peers, where I think we see kind of our four times upside reversion to the mean just to trade at the average of our peers when we're all trading at depressed levels. These assets, importantly, are all located in great jurisdictions in Canada. And we think this is a portfolio that's going to be one of the first to really attract capital to the development sector when that capital starts flowing again. And we have an experienced team in place to surface the value. So with that, we'd just like to say thank you for your time and attention. And if you'd like to get any more information, you can always contact us. The information is on our website, www.firstmininggold.com. Thanks very much.